This video is documenting the prediction that the main U.S. stock indexes, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500, will make their all-time peak highs on February 6th, 2026, and then begin their biggest crashes in all of history. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right, welcome. It is being predicted that the main stock market indexes on the New York Stock Exchange, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 average, will make their all-time peak highs on February 6th, 2026, and then begin the biggest stock market crashes in history. This video will talk about how, well, I'm not even going to summarize the video. There's a lot to explain here, and it is amazing, and it'll prove that this prediction is from God. As I mentioned in the first video, and I recommend watching that first video first, if you haven't yet watched it, and then come back to this one. That first video is the Curse of the Bambino Blood Moon Lunar Eclipse prophecy video regarding this prediction that the stocks will make their all-time peak highs on February 6th. This is somewhat of a continuation because of the theme, one of the themes in the first video being Kobe Bryant's crash. But like I mentioned in the first video, which you should watch and come back to this one after, the reasons for this prediction, the reasons for how this prediction is known, prove that this prediction is more than just a coincidence. That said, today's date, as you will see, is prior to February 6th. I'm recording this on February 1st. This email that I'm about to read was composed on January 26th, many days before February 6th. And so the market has not, first of all, made all-time peak highs and has not begun crashing. That's the prediction. To predict the precise date for that, it's one thing to predict that there will be a crash. There are people out there that predict that. It's another thing to predict that it'll be the biggest crash in all of history. There are very, very few people that are predicting that. But it is another thing completely to predict the precise date of the peak and then subsequent beginning of the crash. That's an entirely other different type of prediction. All right? And that's what's being made here. So that alone should be enough for the rational person. But human beings aren't rational by nature. And so we're going to give it another try here for the hardcore agnostic atheist. What I'm saying, in addition to all of that, which should have been enough, or should be enough, but if it isn't, because it's not rational how people formulate their worldviews, then we'll add this to this. The reasons for how this prediction is known are clearly from God. As you will see, as I will be explaining in this video and have explained in the first video and will explain in other videos, more reasons. These reasons could not have been concocted in the imagination of a human being. No one is creative enough to come up with these reasons that I'll be explaining. They are clearly from God. And they will be proven to be from God after the prediction comes to pass. And then, to not appreciate this after the prediction comes to pass and after hearing these reasons, to conclude that this is a coincidence makes you a fool, completely irrational. And so we just do our best here, but this is the thing about human nature, and God designed human nature. It is that there is such a thing in psychology called belief perseverance, which is that when faced with information that contradicts a person's worldview, they block it out. It goes in one ear and out the other. They dismiss it. I've witnessed this thousands of times in my life. It's enough to actually give up and quit trying to convince anyone of anything, let alone convince them that the righteous Christian God of the Bible is the true God. The truth is that people believe what they want to believe, and they have their worldviews based on what they want to believe, and that can include tribal, familial affiliation. Like someone being born into a religion, and therefore that's the reason why they are a member of that religion, or that tribe, if you will, which I cannot relate to. I'm one of what evolutionary psychologists call 10% of the population that are interested in the truth. They call them scouts versus soldiers. There is this evolutionary psychology theory that says that people are either soldiers or scouts. Soldiers are interested in defending their worldview, and scouts are interested in obtaining the most accurate map of reality possible. And so I cannot relate at all to someone who was born into a particular religion and then remains in that. That said, agnostic atheism is a religion. Not only is it a religion, it is a hardcore fundamentalist dogmatic religion. Every religion is a worldview, and agnostic atheism, in other words, materialism, is a worldview. And this religion, and like all religions, have a core belief. The core belief, the foundational belief behind this religion of agnostic atheism, secularism, whatever you want to call it, is that there may or may not be a God, but it's impossible to know because there is no evidence for God, which is the biggest lie. I can't even express how much of a lie that is, and everyone knows it. That's another subject, actually. Spiritually, everyone knows that it's a lie. But I mean, regarding the evidence, it's such a lie that is a result of so much propaganda and incessant beating of a propagandist's drum of regarding this falsehood. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the scientific evidence from even the early mid-20th century contradicts the 19th century worldview of materialism. But that's the case with our culture today. People are stuck in 19th century science when they thought they were brilliant for concluding that we don't need a flood to explain geology. And now we know that materialism is true. It's so absurd that people are still in this mode of thinking. But the truth is, the reason why that is the case is that they do not want there to be a God, let alone the righteous Christian God of the Bible. That's the truth. And that's why it's all spiritual, and people have been given a choice. That's the purpose of life. God has partially hidden himself for the purpose of letting the creature who has been given free will, which is how we are created in the image of God, choose whether or not they want or not want to be with God for eternity. It's a huge responsibility on both ends. On God's part, because then they become like God, but on the individual's part as well. It's a choice that must be made, and it cannot be made with God standing in front of their face after they've been created and him saying to the creature, welcome to life, I'm God, love me. That's not how it works. No one would want to marry a robot, and neither does God, or someone who's forced to love God. God does not want that. That's not the purpose of his creation. His purpose of creation is to have a genuine relationship with his creature, and that must require free will and the choice. And so that's why the truth is, despite the propaganda from the secular leftists that have outlawed, made it a criminal offense to teach anything otherwise in schools, for example, the scientific evidence even for an intelligent designer, which is overwhelming. Okay, so that's where we're at in our culture. It's evil. Our culture is evil today, and the root reason is the rejection of God by the secular left. And there is no such thing as a leftist Christian. It's an oxymoron. It's leftism, religion. Leftist politics is a religion, and the people on the left that are claiming to be Christians it's Christianity with it's leftism with a cross is all it is. Same with Jews on the left. It's leftism with the Star of David is all it is. It's not real. Anyway, let's continue here. What I'm about to do now is read to you these explanations for how this prediction is known ahead of time, which will clearly indicate that this prediction that's about to occur, stocks reaching their all-time peak highs on February 6th, is a prediction from God. I just want to clarify one more thing. When I say all-time high, I'm assuming that it'll be an intraday high, but it also might also be a closing high. Okay, so there's a difference between a high made during the day and the number that the market closes at the end of the day. It could be that the closing high may or may not be the day before or the day after February 6th, but the intraday high, February 6th. That also might be wrong, and the closing high might be February 6th, and the intraday high being another day. But I don't think so. It wouldn't make as much sense in my opinion, but I could be wrong about that. But you get my point. February 6th will either be the intraday high or the closing high of all time. All right? So, Kobe was born on the date 8/23. Through God's signs, Kobe's birth date has been demonstrated to be important. Okay, so some of this information at the beginning of this video, stay tuned, bear with me, it's worth reviewing, but it has been explained already in the first video. Just the first introductory stuff regarding Kobe, okay? Okay, so again, this 8/23, and later in this video, I'm about to explain, which I didn't in the first video, why the date 8/23, why it is this number 8 and 23 are paired together, and it is astounding. It has to do with Revelation chapter 8 and Isaiah chapter 23, which I'll get to, which regards ships, and Kobe Bryant died in an airship, if you will. Now, on January 25th, 2026, a plane with 8 people crashed in the 23rd state, Maine. This was on the same day that the 23-year-old May, quarterback named May, which ended at Maine for New England, where Maine is, beat quarterback number 8 for the opposing team of the Broncos. So that was a pairing of 8 and 23 on the date of 8 people in the crash in the 23rd state. Also, the Patriots won with a 23-yard field goal. Okay, now, again, like I mentioned in the first video, there was this mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine on October 25th, 2023. You might recall 13 people were injured and 18 people were killed. And then there was a manhunt for the shooter that lasted a few days, which was very prophetic, the manhunt, but that's not the subject of this video. But what I want to get at here is that 13 injured and 18 killed hints at Revelation 13:18, which describes the mark of the Antichrist. And in God's signs in general, mass shootings have been symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, which are the shots. The things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the things that come out of things and go into people. The masses of people, hence the mass shootings, okay? So, now, regarding this 823 number, we have from this shooting that pointed to the mark of the Antichrist, 823 days to the 8 deaths and in the 23rd state, in the plane crash, which was the day again of the 23-year-old May for New England beating the number 8 quarterback. Now, also, this 823 days happens to also be exactly 9 plus 9 plus 9 months. And God uses the number 9 as the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. It's from the Bible. It symbolizes God's judgment. 999, God repeats the number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning, but also 999 flipped upside down is 666, which is associated with the mark of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy, which is described in Revelation 13:18. This 9 plus 9 plus 9 months, which is also 823 days, is also 2 years and 3 months exactly, which hints at the number 23. And this connects from this mass shooting in the 23rd state to this plane crash in the 23rd state on the day of the victory of the 23-year-old quarterback after a 23-yard field goal. Okay, now this day of the 23-year-old, everything, the plane crash in the 23rd state and the 23-year-old victory. So this January 25th, 2026 date is, in turn, 1,091 days to the predicted return of the basketball president to the White House on January 20th, 2029. And that hints at Revelation 9:11, which speaks about, is an allusion to, the mark of the Antichrist being taken and those who take it being demonically possessed. Okay, that's another subject. But that's the 911 connection there, okay? Now, January 25th was also 900 plus 10 days, another 911, before the predicted plane crash in St. Louis. So we have the Lewiston, Maine shooting connecting to a plane crash in Maine, which then connects to the predicted plane crash in St. Louis. This connection is also 252.0% of a year, and that's a second witness confirmation to the 900 plus 10 days. Because in Bible prophecy, 2,520 days is a period of time that symbolizes the end times and the period of the Antichrist. And the Antichrist will return to power through the plane crash that's predicted to be in St. Louis. Because Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom are predicted to be in that plane and they will be running mates, and then their deaths will lead the way to Michelle and Barack Obama being the nominees for the Democrat Party. Okay, and that's why the predicted date of the plane crash is the 6 plus 6 plus 6, the triangular number of days to January 20th, 2029, when it's predicted that they'll return to the White House. Okay. Primarily, the date 823 hints at the ships in Revelation chapter 8 and Isaiah chapter 23. The ships are destroyed in Revelation chapter 8. The ships that are destroyed in Revelation chapter 8 symbolizes the destruction of America. So there are basically everyone says, everyone that I know of, I don't know anyone that knows what I'm about to tell you, but everyone says that America is not in Bible prophecy, but it is simply not true. And of course it wouldn't be. Okay? Of course it wouldn't be the case that America is not in end times prophecy. And it is through the ships. The ships that are destroyed in Revelation chapter 8 are not arbitrary. There's a reason why they are there. And like many passages in the book of Revelation, it's a parallel with Old Testament prophecy, in this case, Isaiah chapter 23, and the ships. Okay? What are the ships in Isaiah chapter 23? Why are the ships destroyed in Revelation chapter 8? Why do we have this? Why did God mention destruction of ships? Well, in Isaiah chapter 23, we have a description of ancient Tyre, which first of all is symbolic of America. And that's why in God's signs, we have these signs that are pointing to ancient Tyre. For example, Tyreek Hill, a professional NFL football player. I won't get into the details of the signs, but we also have the Tylenol story, you may recall recently. We have all of this anyway hinting at Tyre. The reason why Tyre hints at America is because ancient Tyre was successful and prosperous due to its security, its natural border wall of security, which was the ocean. Ancient Tyre was off the coast of the Eastern Mediterranean, and it wasn't until Alexander built a causeway from the mainland to Tyre that it was conquered by an invading army. Okay, and so that's representative of America that God designed to be far apart from the rest of the world through massive oceans, giving it its natural protection from its enemies. That was all designed by God. Now also, God designed that culture of America to be birthed in the island of Great Britain, which God also designed to be set apart from the rest of Europe in order to create his unique culture that wasn't like the rest of Europe, with its unique language that was later used to spread the gospel around the world. The extremely rich language of English. Okay, so in Isaiah chapter 23, we not only have the description of ancient Tyre, which symbolizes America, but also we have the ships of Tarshish. And we have a lot of evidence from the ancient world that confirm that Tarshish was Great Britain. The ships of Tarshish refer to what enabled Great Britain to produce an empire on which the sun never set around the globe. Its ships, its naval power, and its merchant power, merchant ships, which is a natural thing for a people surrounded by an ocean to do. Be dominant with the use of ships. Okay, and so, so then in that chapter also we have not only the ships of Tarshish, but the daughter of Tarshish being described. The daughter of Tarshish is America. America is the daughter of Great Britain, and the culture of Great Britain that God designed to be this unique individualist culture with an emphasis on individualism to be birthed. The nation of America, these two nations that founded the ethos of freedom and liberty in the world. Because human beings by nature do not desire liberty. It's a sad truth about humanity. They would prefer to be taken care of. In fact, communism is the natural instinct of the human being and a society. It has to be fought. The natural instinct, and this is biblical, by nature, humans are evil and fallen, and the natural instinct is to not desire liberty, but to be taken care of. It's a principle. It's a godly principle, liberty, which could only have been birthed through the cultures of Great Britain and America, founded in Judeo-Christian values. Now that we've gotten rid of the values in these cultures and in the West, this is why we now see the precipitous drop of the value of liberty and the rise of leftist politics and socialism through secular ideology and the replacement of God through the worship of religion, the worship of the state as the religion, and the worship of politics. For the left, politics have become their religion and their raison d'etre, their reason for existing. It's their meaning in life because they do not believe in God. So they have to worship something, as Chesterton said. When they stop worshiping God, they don't stop worshiping anything. They don't worship nothing. They worship anything. They worship the environment. They worship politics. They worship the state. They worship health. They worship this life. They worship themselves. That's the left for you today. The civil war going on today between the conservatives, Christians, true Christians, and the left is unlike the other civil wars that have occurred in American and English culture over the last few hundred years. Because these civil wars break out every 80 to 100 years. It's a cycle. But this time, the two warring factions, because of course the Revolutionary War in America was a civil war, and the Civil War, of course, was a civil war. And during the time of FDR and World War II, the two camps of U.S. Americans hated each other just as much as they do today. Had the South or North had nuclear weapons, they would have used them on each other back then, believe it or not. But the difference today, and the reason why we don't have that sort of violence in our current civil war is because, first of all, it's not a kinetic world war. It's a war of information, and it's literally a war of information. It's fifth generation warfare is what it is. But the reason why it hasn't broken out into violence is because, well, for one, it's a fifth generation warfare, which is information. And also there's no geographical line to draw. These two sides are existing and living beside each other, and often is the case. Now, we do have red and blue states and red and blue countries, like Canada being extremely blue, for example, but not entirely, and the UK being blue, but not entirely. Anyway, we don't have a clear line to have like a civil war. But what I was going to say is that unlike prior civil wars, today it's a religious war, and the two sides agree on absolutely nothing of importance. They are completely different cultures, and they cannot coexist. Unlike prior civil wars, when the war was done, hands were shaken, and the life went on. That's not the case today. These two sides hate each other, but they are fundamentally opposed to each other ideologically in their worldview, in their religion. And there is no such thing as not having a religion. Everyone has a religion. The agnostic, atheist, whatever secular, leftist religion is a religion, like I've explained now. Anyway, that's why it's the end. It's the end. But more than that, it is the end times, and one of these two sides is on the side of the devil. Without them knowing it. Okay. My point being is that this is a warning. Hopefully this prediction will finally have it that some of these people on the left will open their eyes, think a second time, remove themselves from the bubble of information that constantly feeds them lies, wicked, evil lies constantly, to brainwash them into their world and confirm for them their worldview, which is false. It's all spiritual, and Satan is working overtime in the information war. And if you are on the left and you get your information from mainstream liberal news sources, it's not like it was 70 years ago, the mainstream news. It's all wicked lies. Like, it's absolutely nuts to be on the side that knows the truth, to witness this, to witness the lies on a constant lies on a daily basis that the left just loves to hear. It's a spiritual thing, and they love the lies that they receive. That's the thing. That's why it's all spiritual. They're spiritually desiring to be with Satan. They've chosen their side. They've chosen the devil. They love the lies. They love it. Because spiritually, they're not healthy. They love the lies. It's all a test, in other words. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a test, and you're failing. Because you don't love righteousness and you don't hate evil. The left hates those who hates evil. That's the summary there. The left hates those who hate evil. That's it. This is what it all comes down to. But let's move on. So America is in Bible prophecy. Okay? Because it is the daughter of Tarshish in Isaiah chapter 23, the ships of Tarshish. And of course, America also is prosperous due to its naval power and its trade with the world through ships. Now, Kobe played for the Lakers. A lake is a body of water. Ships float on bodies of water. Kobe's parents named him after Kobe, Japan, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean body of water from where the Lakers play in Los Angeles. So it's the opposite sides of the Pacific, Los Angeles and Kobe, Japan, which is what Kobe's parents named their son after. Okay, now Los Angeles is where Kobe's airship crashed. Okay, it's a ship. It's a helicopter, but it's still a ship. Anyway, Kobe wore jersey number 8. On the day of the plane crash that killed 8 people in the 23rd state, Seattle, on that day, Seattle won the NFC Championship game. Seattle is the sister city of Kobe, Japan. God has connected these two cities in other signs and other ways, but I'm not going to get into. Likewise, on this same day, the 23-year-old May, as in Maine, the 23rd state, in New England, where May plays, this is a typo, his name is M-A-Y-E, beat replacement quarterback number 8 in a game known for the weather suddenly turning bad. Kobe's airship crashed due to weather suddenly turning bad. And so did this crash in the 23rd state that killed 8 people. It was actually due to bad weather suddenly turning bad and ice on its wings. And this was the same weekend that ice killed an insurrectionist, and it was in bad, extremely cold weather. Kobe, who was born on the date 8/23, died on a mountain in an airship when the weather suddenly turned bad. On January 25th, 8 people died in a plane crash in the 23rd state when the weather suddenly turned bad. It is believed the plane crashed due to ice on its wings. On this same day, QB quarterback number 8 was beaten by the 23-year-old quarterback May, and the plane crash was in the 23rd state, Maine. And the quarterback plays for New England, and Maine is in New England, in a game known for the weather suddenly turning bad and icy. Literally, that's what this game is known for. There's another subject that I explained in another video. This game was played in Mile High Stadium in a mountain state. Kobe's airship crashed into a mountain. These signs involving sudden icy weather occurred on the same weekend as the ice shooting in cold weather in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The 23rd state hints at the 32nd state, which is Minnesota. Both begin with the letter M, incidentally. Kobe played for the Lakers franchise, which originated in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and was named after the many freshwater lakes in the region. So the basketball team that Kobe played for originated in the Land of Lakes region, Minneapolis, and they retained their name when they moved to Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's just another way in which Kobe ties into all of this, because he was born on the date 8/23. With the ways he tied in up here with the Seattle, like I mentioned, but also the number, this 8/23 pairing on this date, and involving a plane crash. And Kobe died in a plane crash. And the game was in the mountain state. He died in a plane crash that crashed into a mountain. The weather suddenly turning bad and icy. The ice shooting in Minnesota, where the Lakers is from. You get the idea, right? It's definitely all pointing to Kobe Bryant and his aircraft and his air crash. Okay. Anti-ice hints at anti-Christ. That's the sub-hidden meaning God is hinting at here, because that's it. They literally have the people that are protesting against ice, the anti-ice people, literally have the spirit of Antichrist and are with Satan. And if you don't know that, okay, let's get some basics here. Just think about it. Just think about the types of people that are out there doing what they're doing, right? They're lost people, let's be honest. We all know that. In their life, they're lost, in general. Okay, but also, what are they supposedly quote unquote protesting? What are they doing? They're protesting America having borders. They don't want America to have a border, right? Well, why is that? Well, that's evil in itself. The reason why. The reason for the lies from the governor and the mayor of the state and the city. Why are they lying through their teeth constantly about what's going on? Because they have the spirit of Antichrist. They're leftists. I mean, Walz is a communist, right? That's a documented fact. Has a history in the Communist Party. He went to China, I don't know how many, like 30 times or something. He's a communist stooge. Somehow he got into the governor's office, but that's not surprising given the state's of Minnesota's history of communist party history, going way back. Okay, so that's how he got into office in the first place. He's a commie. He's an anti-American guy. Well, what is an anti-American person? It's essentially a leftist socialist, and it's essentially rebellion against God, because America is God's Gentile nation, and the spiritual truth about the matter is that these people hate America for that reason, because they're in rebellion against God. But that's another subject. But what are they protesting, quote unquote protesting? They're protesting a border. Well, any sane person knows that America, any country, needs a border. It's not a country if it doesn't have a border, right? A human being is made up of different cells, and a cell's integrity is maintained through its border. Without a cell having a border, there is no cell, and then there's no organism. There's no life. God designed it this way. Borders are meant for protection. America, like I explained earlier, was divinely, providentially placed in the middle of two vast oceans as borders for security and integrity. All right? Now, in the book of, I'll give you this too. In the Bible, there is the wall of security of the ancient city of Jericho that collapsed in God's judgment after the Israelites took the promised land. Well, the pilgrims saw their crossing of the Atlantic as analogous to crossing the Jordan River into the promised land, and their escape from the king of Egypt and persecution as analogous to the escape of the king of England and persecution. And they founded America on the Bible, the spiritual founding of America, the pilgrims, on liberty and freedom, which must be fought for, but only is fought for by Christians. It's a biblical concept. Like I said, the natural instinct for man is to not desire liberty. It has to be fought for. And it has to be fought against those that don't desire liberty. Those that don't desire liberty on the left have to be fought constantly throughout all time, because they are on the side of the natural instinct of man. Okay, now, so the walls of security collapsed in Jericho when the trumpets were blown, 7 of them. Trump, God's trumpet, rose to power through his campaign about the border wall of security, and he was inaugurated when he was exactly 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old, in the year ending in 7, which was 73 days, which hints at 3 sets of 7, because the Israelites enacted symbolic 3 sets of 7. Okay, let me rewind. The Israelites enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7. Before the walls of security collapsed on Jericho, they marched around once per day for 7 days, and then on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times while blowing 7 trumpets. It was a 3 sets of 7. That's why Trump was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old on the day of his inauguration, and he was known in his campaign for trumpeting the border wall of security. And then throughout his presidency, especially the first term, it was all about the border wall of security, and he even visited it a number of times, and there was even a massive government shutdown because of it and all that. And who fought it? Who fought the border? Well, the left. Why did they fight the border? They don't want a border. Why don't they want a border? Because they want the invasion of the people from the rest of the world. Why do they want that? Because they don't like America. They don't like how it is. They want to replace America with a different culture. They're evil. They're on the side of Satan, who wants to destroy America. Now, so Trump was inaugurated when he was 7, and Trump-Pence hinted at trumpets. And he was inaugurated when he was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old in the year ending in 7. But it was 73 days, which hints at 3 sets of 7, after he was elected by 77 electoral votes. And on that same day that he was elected by 77 electoral votes, Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, as in the leader of the Israelites, Joshua, had been in office for exactly 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days. And that day, the day that Trump won by 77 electoral votes, was exactly 73 weeks, which hints at 3 sets of 7, after the beginning of everything when he descended the golden escalator in the Trump Tower. Okay, and that day was exactly 188 months exactly to the very day, the 16th of the month in both cases, after the 7.0 earthquake in Joshua Tree, California. The reason for 188 is because H188 in the Hebrew concordance of the Bible is the word that means woe, ! Used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. In other words, Trump has been trumpeting extreme judgment from God on America. And those who have Trump derangement syndrome are manifesting a spiritual condition. Trump is God's King Jehu. When King Jehu was anointed by the prophet in the Bible, he descended the stairs off the mountain, just like Trump, when he was anointed, descended the golden escalator in the Trump Tower, the very beginning of everything, the symbolic beginning. Jehu was an erratic, unpredictable, it's exactly like Trump. Jonathan Cahn talks about this parallel a lot. I highly recommend looking into it. But King Jehu was anointed to drain the swamp. And he fought the former first lady to get there, to take power. He fought the former first lady, Jezebel, which in this parallel is Hillary Clinton, and then later Kamala Harris, the second time. Okay, that's enough of that parallel, though. So what I was getting at is that the border wall of security is what it's all about. Now, in the second term, it's all about tariffs, for example. Well, tariffs are a form of border wall of security. Oh, and by the way, when Trump was removed from office, that's when the border wall of security collapsed. And during the Biden administration, which wasn't run by Biden, but run by radical leftists, they purposefully, through the aid of the UN, funneled third worlders from all over the world up through Mexico, through Central America, and funded them the whole way, and still fund them inside America through UN, NGOs, etc., because the UN is made up of communists, and they want to take down America because that's what communists want to do. They hate America. Why? It's not rational, but they hate America because they are spiritually in rebellion against God. So they want to bring down America, and the invasion was symbolic of the walls of security of Jericho collapsing in God's judgment in the Bible. So America's walls of security collapsed when Trump left office, and then the millions flooded in, and now we have the situation today. And so although it wasn't ideal before, we had this uneasy, if you will, laissez-faire attitude towards the 10 to 15 million illegals inside the U.S., but now during the Biden administration, tens of more millions were flooded in. And so something needs to be done about it now. But that was all designed by God, or also Satan, for end times purposes, to instigate what we're seeing now, which is the initial stages of, I guess, or rather an escalation of the current civil war. Through the deeply corrupt blue cities establishing these so-called sanctuary cities at war with the federal government, which is all a prelude for when the Antichrist regains power in the White House, and we have the reverse, with the mark of the Antichrist being shoved on people that don't want to take it, and then red state cities defending themselves against the federal government. That's what's coming, and it's all a prelude, it's all a type, it's all a foreshadow of what's coming. Do you see what's going on? God is communicating through this battle between the blue cities and the federal government and Trump what's coming in the future for red states, with the federal government in truth violating the Constitution and cracking down. Because the lie is, of course, that Trump is walking on the Constitution or something like that. He's just enforcing federal law. It's the mayors and the governors of the blue states that are fighting what's reasonable and also federal law. Okay. So, and why do they want the legals? Well, because they want to have a one-party state, like all communists do. They're tired of the electoral college. That they clearly showed that in 2020. And you know what I'm talking about. When the most corrupt blue cities shoplifted the referendum. And to anyone that thinks that they wouldn't have done that, you don't know anything. You're complete ignorant. You have no understanding at all about the nature of these corrupt blue cities. It's all corruption. Because it's godless. They're Democrats. They're godless. And you have a long history of even shoplifted referendums predating the year 2020. It's nothing to be surprised about. But that's exactly what happened. But now once they did that, they installed themselves into the White House, they took it upon themselves to tear down the wall. The opposite of what Trump was doing, because it's the opposite, right? It's the good versus evil. Trump is establishing a border which was designed by God for maintaining integrity and security. The anti-security people, the ones that don't want a border, the Democrats, are evil. And it's all lies. And if you don't know that, there's a problem here. If you don't recognize that this Governor Waltz guy's speaking lies, it's because you're being spoon-fed propaganda from the left constantly through the leftist media. And you have no discernment about what's right and wrong anymore and what's true. I mean, it's wicked, it's subtle, the lies are often subtle and deceitful, but it's all lies. It's propaganda. And no, it's not on both sides. It's not equal. No. One side is with Satan, and they are evil. The other side is trying as best as they can, as broken, or rather as fallen, imperfect human beings, to stand up for truth and righteousness. You can't have millions and millions of people come in. You have to be masculine and a man about the situation and not be emotional. You can't have that, right? You gotta have a border. And they broke the law recently, and they gotta go. And, okay, there'll be some that get caught up in that have been here longer than a few years, but it doesn't matter. It's life. The nation itself is more important. They gotta go. And everyone knows that. Most people that are rational know this. Okay? So I think that's enough of this talk here. So anti-ICE hints at Antichrist prophetically. The people that are protesting against ICE, the anti-ICE people, have the spirit of Antichrist, literally. The more radical they are, or the higher up in power, like the governor, the more spirit of Antichrist they have. Now, on September 24th, there was a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. God is using the city Dallas to symbolize the evangelical church and its Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth, and those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, which is churned out in the seminaries in Dallas that churn out the nation's pastors, quote unquote pastors, because they are the Nicolaitans. And I'm not going to get into that because I've gotten into it so many times. If you are a Christian, the most important video for you, arguably, on this channel is the 23 church signs video. Okay, so the ICE shooting in Dallas, okay, in which the shooter shot and killed 2 illegal aliens being held by ICE, okay? On the bullets, the perpetrator had written anti-ICE, okay? Now, September 24th was 3 months and 14 days, as in Isaiah 31:4, which describes the Antichrist, to the shooting to the ICE shooting of Rene Good, which hinted at Renegade, the Secret Service nickname for Obama, the Antichrist, on January 7th. And that is in turn 122 days to the shooting of Alex Preddy. Sorry, this Dallas shooting is 122 days, which is also the equivalent of 4 months exactly. 4, and 122, because Pope Francis's name is equal to 122 in simple English gematria. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. And San Francisco is also equal to 122, and San Francisco lies on the 122nd longitudinal line. And the 122 is the 41st semi-prime number, a number that is only divisible by 2 other prime numbers. And the word key is equal to 41 in simple English gematria. And in Bible prophecy, in the book of Revelation, we have a description of a key opening the door to the bottomless pit to the demons, or if you will, in symbolic terms here with God's signs, the illegal aliens, because the demons will come pretending to be aliens once the door is opened. Now, a key is a symbol for the Vatican, which is the connection to Pope Francis here, who will be resurrected in the April of 2029 through demonic power. And this exact 4 months connection is because the 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the symbol for a door, the door to the demons in the bottomless pit. Alex, because Alex instead X, which is in God's signs, symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. Anti-ICE, because ICE is symbolic of the SHOT, not just because of the ICE shootings, but because of, for example, Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle novel about ICE 9 and how it's ingested. It's symbolic of taking the mark, the ICE in itself. Furthermore, ICE is ingested. ICE is something people consume. All right, now 4 months is also 2 + 2 months, and in God's signs, number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. Kobe died in a crash and wore number 8. The Dow closed at 9,605 on 9/11 and 09, 8 years after the Dow closed at 9,605 on 9/11 and 01. Is there a Kobe date that connects to 9/11/09? Kobe scored 81 points against the Raptors, which hints at the rapture, 14 years and 4 days before January 26th, 2020, which is the day of Kobe Bryant's crash. Okay, so this is huge. This is huge because the number 144 is associated with those who will be raptured in Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation. The team Raptors hints at this. Furthermore, they play in Toronto next to the CN Tower, which in God's signs is symbolic of the Tower of Babel. Toronto is the Tower of Babel city. It's not a Canadian city, it's an international city, it's a Tower of Babel city. As the 23rd Prime Minister bragged, Canada is the first post-national nation. An absurd thing to say, But that's like the idealism of the left for you there. The left, for example, doesn't want borders. The left that loves, for example, how Toronto isn't a Canadian city anymore. And then the same people that want these immigrants will then complain about how it's impossible to drive safely through the city anymore, for example. And still vote for the party that allows the open borders. Well, anyway, we had this record, or not, it wasn't a record. I think it was maybe the second highest amount of points ever scored in a game, 81 points. This is a 9/11 number because 9 divided by 11 is 0.818181 into infinity. Also, there were 81 passengers on the plane that flew into the first tower. Speaking of the Tower of Babel in Toronto, where the Raptors play. So you get the idea here. We have the Raptors, and we have the 144 number connection, which confirms the matter. Which, by the way, this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second, so anyway, you get the idea. As a second witness. Because, again, raptors hint at rapture, and there's more evidence for this, just not only this game, but in other instances as well. And then we have this 144 number, which is a rapture number. Between Kobe Bryant's astounding game and the day he crashed. Okay, now, my question is there a connection with Kobe Bryant here to September 11th, 09? Because again, on this day, the Dow closed at 9,605, and it was exactly 8 years, Kobe Bryant wore number 8, after the Dow closed or was closed at 9,605 during the day of 9/11 in 01. The 9,605 hinted at 9/11 because the 6 plus 5 equals 11. Also, there were 56 passengers on the second plane. Okay, so that's another thing. It was a 9/11 number, and then we have this anniversary of 9/11 with the exact same thing. In fact, it was 9,605.41 points on 9/11/09, and it was 9,605.51 points on 9/11 and 01. The difference being 0.10, and there's a reason for that, which I'm not going to explain here. Now, so what happened? Well, I just learned this through my friend here, that on 9/11 and 09, the day of the stock market sign, which again I'm thinking connects Kobe Bryant, a basketball player, that was the intuition. And sure enough, the big sign on this day was a basketball sign. This was the day that Michael Jordan cried at his induction into the Hall of Fame on 9/11 and 09. It's an amazing thing. He cried after the 8-minute highlights video, which confirms the 8 years connection that I just mentioned. And Kobe Bryant, the other basketball player, wearing number 8. Well, what number did Michael Jordan wear? That's right. He wore number 23. What is this pointing at? This is 8 and 23, the two numbers that I was talking about, the date that Kobe Bryant was born on. The ship's numbers. So I'm jumping ahead. This was in 09. He wore number 23. 23 is the 9th prime number. He wore number 9 on the Dream Team when they outscored their opponents by an average of 44 points. Number 23 cried at the Hall of Fame on 9/11 and 09, 9 plus 9 plus 9 weeks exactly after the S&P 500 ticked 666 at the intraday low. The very low tick was 666, and it was on the date 36, which hints at 3 6s in 09. And that day was the 9th triangular number of days after the inauguration of the 44th president. And 8 years, by the way, is also 4 plus 4 years. So the 9th triangular number is 45, and Jordan wore number 45 when he played for the White Sox and also for 23 games, coincidentally, when he played for the Bulls after he came back from his 1-year retirement. before he reverted back to number 23. But he wore number 45 for 23 games, and that was just a coincidence. But anyway, he chose number 23 because it was half of 45, the number that he wore in high school. His favorite number or something. In his final game with the Bulls, he scored 45 points against the team from the 45th state in the finals. The speech at the Hall of Fame hints at the inauguration speech. Okay, so I just described the connection between the inauguration of Obama, the basketball president, and Jordan. Both of them are from Chicago. Both of them were number 23. And Jordan's induction speech, if you will, a type of inauguration speech into the Hall of Fame. Both of these days connected. I'll explain it again. The inauguration was the 9th triangular number of days, followed by 9 plus 9 plus 9 weeks exactly to the Hall of Fame speech. And Jordan wore number 9, like I just said, and 23 is the 9th prime number, all that. Well, okay. Many people cried at the inauguration of the first black president. That's it. So on the day of the inauguration, many people cried because he was the first black president, the basketball president. And I just explained now how it connects in the year 09 with the 9th triangular number of days followed by 9 plus 9 plus 9 weeks. And that hits at 666, flips upside down. And that 9 plus 9 plus 9 weeks is from the day that the Dow or the S&P ticked 666. Okay, so again, from the inauguration, this is clearly identifying the Antichrist. So let me repeat it. From the inauguration of the Antichrist, and God pairs 9 and 44 together. Let me just say that first. The way in which God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works is works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming matters the Bible says is required. And this is what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet claims to be analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9, 23, and 44. And I know that these are the numbers because I've been studying his big picture of science from morning to night for more than full-time hours for more than 7 years. And the reason is because the president, the basketball president, wore number 23 in high school, the 44th president, and was inaugurated in 09. Okay. So 23, 9, and 44 are how God's signs works, which is only being explained on this channel. These are the building blocks of God's signs, okay? They confirm the matter. So from the inauguration of the 44th president, it is the 9th triangular number to the day that the S&P ticked 666, which identifies Barack Obama as the Antichrist. On the date 36, which is at 3 6s. That day in turn is another 9 connection, 9 plus 9 plus 9 weeks, which flipped upside down is 666, to the Hall of Fame inauguration speech for number 23 on the 4+4 anniversary of the stock market sign. You get what I'm saying here, okay? All these 9s and 23s pairing together and 44s. Now, the thing is that the inauguration of the first black president was known for people crying, right? Well, what happened was Jordan, the Hall of Fame induction of Jordan was known for him crying. So the first black president is the basketball president who wore number 23 and is from Chicago like Jordan. The Hall of Fame is in the 2 times 3rd state, which is at 23. So you get the idea here. We got crying speech to crying speech, which identifies through all of this Obama as the Antichrist. And furthermore, Michael Jordan is the GOAT, greatest of all time, and that's symbolic of the GOAT Antichrist in Bible prophecy. So you see what I'm saying? This all what I've just described identifies Barack Obama as the Antichrist, way back in 09. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, number 8 and number 23. Okay, so crazy. Quote, this is the search that I made on the AI. Is Michael Jordan known for boats? Question mark. The answer, yes. Michael Jordan is well known in the luxury boating and competitive sport fishing communities, particularly for his custom-built fishing yachts named Catch 23. Can you believe it? I had an intuition because, of course, it just seemed logical, given what I've said earlier about how 8 and 23 are paired together in God's signs because of the ships in Revelation chapter 8, which is a parallel with the ships of Tarshish in Isaiah chapter 23, which, as I mentioned, symbolizes America. This is the proof. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan wearing number 8 and 23. And Michael Jordan being known for his boats, his ships. Amazing, amazing. Now, okay, Jordan In his speech, Jordan thanked Isaiah Thomas. At the Hall of Fame speech, he thanked Isaiah. That's right. Number 23 thanked Isaiah, which hints at Isaiah chapter 23 and the ships. He thanked Isaiah Thomas for allegedly orchestrating the freeze out of Jordan in his first All-Star game. He hints at Isaiah chapter 23. Amazing. Michael Jordan will turn 23,000 years old exactly on February 6th, the date it is predicted that the stock market will peak and then crash. There you have it. So I established all of this, right? I've established that, well, I mentioned in the other video, for example, that Kobe, the name said in Hebrew, sounds like COVID. And he wore number 24, and he crashed 24 days before the stock market peaked, before the COVID crash, the COVID stock market crash in March and April and May of 2020. 24 days after player number 24 crashed, because Kobe wore number 8 and 24. Now I'm saying that this plane crash with 8 people in the 23rd state connects to the predicted day of the crash, or peak and crash of the stock market. But I explained why the 11 days between those two dates is relevant in the other video. But anyway, now we have Michael Jordan, who is being hinted at through Kobe, as I've explained, right? Because 8 and 23 and everything that I've just explained. Well, Michael Jordan was born exactly 23,000 days. This number 23 guy, it doesn't get any more profound, right? Because he is Mr. 23. I mean, when Barack Obama was given jersey number 23 by Dallas at the White House, Obama commented that, you know, I wore number 23 before Michael Jordan did. And so anyway, so you get my point. Now, Michael Jordan's 63rd birthday will be February 17th, and 63 hints at 3 6s. And that'll be, 9 days. The 9th prime number is 23. So anyway, 2,300 days plus 11 days. No, it's 11 days. Sorry. Yeah. From Michael Jordan's birth, it is 23,000 days to February 6th, the day of the peak of the stock market prediction. And then another 11 days to February 17th, which hints at the 2 planes that struck the 2 towers 17 minutes apart on 9/11. And so 2,300 plus 11 days gets us 1,123, which is this number God uses frequently because it is the 188th prime number. And H188 in Hebrew concordance is the word that means woe, exclamation mark, used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. And speaking of the 2 planes that struck the 2 towers 17 minutes apart on 9/11, 9/11 was exactly 188 years after the only other time in history that a foreign enemy attacked the nation's capital, when they landed at Washington's Mount Vernon estate on the date 9/11 in 1813 and proceeded to burn down the Capitol and the White House, Capitol building and the White House, but not before Dolly Madison rescued George Washington's portrait. Kobe and Michael Jordan were born 5,666 days apart. That's a 666, but it's also a division of, or you can divide that into 5,000 plus 666. Now the low on the March 6th date in 2009 of 666 points was in the S&P 500, as in 5,000 here. Now, this low, on March 6, 2009 is exactly 203 months, which is also the 23rd super semi-prime number of months. In other words, it hints at 23 to this date, February 6, 2026. And it could be that on that day, the Dow will be above 50,000, which might be what is hinted at with this 5,666 days. But also, on the day of the crash of the deaths of 8 and in the 23rd state, gold passed 5,000 for the first time. Okay, it's amazing to finally understand the stock market sign on September 11th, 2009. It was a mystery. Kobe's 81 points surely connects somehow. Again, 9 divided by 11 equals 0.818181. 81 passengers on flight 11 on 9/11. This might be a stretch, but this date he scored 81 points was the date 122. His team scored 122 points on that day, which makes it not a stretch, by the way. This was in 06. So 122.06 is 6 times 122 days to February 6th. Can you believe that? That's right. So if you doubted that, okay, so I said a minute ago, Kobe's crash, the crash of number 24, was 24 days before the COVID peak and subsequent crash. Now I am saying that God is using Kobe to point to this upcoming peak and crash also, a pattern, if you will. I've established this in other ways through the plane crash with 8 deaths, 23rd state, all that, and I've established it through Michael Jordan, this February 6th date. But now we're establishing it directly from Kobe Bryant here, because his big 81 points game, which also connected to the day he crashed, like I mentioned up here, right? Which was 14 years and 4 days. I mentioned that. That's the day he crashed right there. Well, anyway, now I'm saying that Kobe Bryant's game not only connected to the day he crashed, but it connects profoundly to the day of the predicted stock market crash, or rather peak before the beginning of the crash. Okay? So it's the date of the game is January 22nd in 06, and that's 6 times 122 days, which is what it's hinted at with the date. It's amazing, before February 6th. Okay? 122.06 hints at 122 times 6. This isn't a stretch. No, it isn't. This also hints at this. This number 1260 is mentioned 7 times in Bible prophecy as symbolizing the period of the Antichrist. And that's what's also hinted at with this date, 122.06. Now, again, they scored 122 points on the date 122. And this was 41 more points than what Kobe scored in the game. 122 is the 41st semi-prime number. Kobe Bryant played for Los Angeles, the Lakers, which hints at fallen angels from the lake of fire. And again, the 41 number is because it's relevant because the word key is equal to 41 in simple English gematria. And a key opens the bottomless pit to the fallen angels in Bible prophecy. The Lakers played the Raptors, as in rapture. And the rapture will be from the rescue, rapture of God's faithful, will be from the demons from the bottomless pit, okay, which is opened with a key. The Lakers scored 6 plus 6 plus 6 more points than the Raptors in the game, which is more confirmation that this is an Antichrist sign. This prophetic 81 points. And by the way, again, 9 divided by 11 is 0.818181, and the key that opens the bottomless pit is Revelation 9:11, symbolized by Revelation 9:11. Okay, now Kobe's final points in the game came Kobe's final points came from free throws with 42 seconds left in the game. 7 times in Bible prophecy, a period of 42 months is mentioned as being symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. 42 biblical months is the equivalent of 1,260 days. 30-day months. 42 seconds confirms that this date hints at 1,260. 9/11/2009 was 9 plus 10 plus 10 months exactly after Kurt Vonnegut died, which God pointed to with another 9/11 sign on 9/11. I think it was a 9/11 connection from 9/11/2025. Pretty sure that's what it was. Maybe not. Anyway, Kurt Vonnegut has been pointed through the stock, his death date was pointed to through a stock market sign in late 2025. And anyway, that's the author of Cat's Cradle and the Ice Nine, which, as I mentioned, is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, the shots. And those who take it will be demonically possessed, which is described in Revelation 9:11. Hence the 9 plus 10 plus 10 months exact connection from the 9/11 stock market sign and the day that Michael Jordan cried at the Hall of Fame. In Cat's Cradle, there is a mysterious antagonist character, Bokonon. Bokonon may hint at Kobe. I'm not sure about that, but okay, so Kobe wrote some occult books called Wizenard or Wizenard after he retired from playing basketball. Well, he didn't write them. He had the idea for them and then had another writer write the books. They're his books, though. So Wizenard rhymes with wizard. Jordan played for the Wizards. And again, we are pairing Kobe with Jordan, number 8 and number 23 in this video, in this subject here. There is a Nike shoe named Kobe Wizenard. So Kobe is definitely known for this Wizenard, okay? This series of books, Wizenard. They're like a fantasy / basketball series. Bokonon hints at Omicron. Yes. There's something with Bokonon, with the Bokonon connection, because Michael Jordan was born 9 plus 10 plus 10 days before Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle was released on March 18th, 1963. And Jordan crying at the Hall of Fame on 9/11/2009 was 9 plus 10 plus 10 months after Kurt Vonnegut died. Okay? So Michael Jordan connects with the Cat's Cradle release date and Kurt Vonnegut's death with this 911 number. That's pretty interesting. Now, 318 hints at, in 63 hints at 666, because 18 divided by 3 is 6. In other words, 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6, 3 sixes. That's what's hinted at with the 318 date, but it was also in 63 that Jordan was born. No, the release date of Cat's Cradle, I should say. That also hints at 3 sixes. Okay? So in other words, that's more confirmation that the Ice 9 in Cat's Cradle is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. Because 666 is associated with the mark of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. Now, Kobe 81 points game on January 22nd, 2006 was 444 days before Vonnegut died on the date 411. 4 times 11 equals 44. Okay? And this hints at the 44th president, the Antichrist, the basketball president. In Cat's Cradle, who attended a Raptors game, by the way, in the finals, the 44th president, that was being played next to the Tower of Babel. And again, Kobe's game was against the Raptors, which the 44th president watched play at a NBA Finals game next to the Tower of Babel. And by the way, the Tower of Babel is symbolic of transhumanism technology, because they built the tower to heaven to try to reach heaven without God. The communists, they came together in a utopian manner to build a tower to heaven without God through their technology of the day, which is symbolic of the transhumanism technology of our day to achieve immortality without God. That's what the super rich atheists are attempting to do. And through experimenting the findings on the population, as we just saw. But it's all the mark of the Antichrist. In Cat's Cradle, the Bokonon religion had its own terms and language. Barasisi and Pabu are the Bokonon names for the sun and the moon. So this is from Wikipedia. there is this astronomy thing, Borasisi, which comes from the Kurt Vonnegut book, Cat's Cradle, and it was officially named on the date 8/23. Can you believe it? On Kobe Bryant's 25th birthday. Borasisi is named after the fictional creation deity taken from the novel Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. In the book, Borasisi is the sun and Pabu is the name of the moon. Borasisi, the sun, held Pabu, the moon, in his arms and hoped that Pabu would bear him a fiery child. But poor Pabu gave birth to children that were cold and did not burn. Then poor Pabu herself was cast away, and she went to live with her favorite child, which was Earth. Kobe equals COVID. As I mentioned, sounds like COVID in Hebrew. Kobe, number 24, crashed 24 days before the COVID stock market crash, peak and crash. Okay, by the way, this Borasisi thing, they're in the Kuiper Belt. I think it's called the Kuiper Belt. There's these moons, if you will, or like small planets that aren't big enough to be a planet, like Pluto, outside of Uranus, the orbit of, or Neptune, or I forget which is the last, Neptune, the furthest planet, if you don't count Pluto. Anyway, that's what's being named here with Borasisi, because it's a binary thing, so they're orbiting each other. So Borasisi and Pabu. But the thing is that it was named on Kobe Bryant's birthday, and it comes from the Kurt Vonnegut book, and I've just been establishing how Kurt Vonnegut ties to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Okay, that's why that's amazing there. Because again, the date 8/23 is Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. Now, the date of Kobe Bryant's big game, January 22nd, 06, in which he scored 9 times 9 points, and 9 pairs of 44 in his signs to confirm the signs and connections, as I mentioned, is 444 days to the date 411, which ends at 44 in Kurt Vonnegut's book. So anyway, that's a pairing of 9 and 44, which confirms the matter even more. And again, the ICE 9 hints at the COVID shot. Now, Kobe Bryant's game, which ends at COVID, the 81 points, 9 divided by 11, 0.8181, Revelation 9:11, King Apollyon, 1260, final shots, 42 seconds. Okay, the date itself hints at 1260, 42 seconds, confirmed that as I mentioned. Okay, now this Kobe Bryant game is exactly 60 plus 60 plus 60 months to January 22nd, 2021, when number 44, again, this game connected with 444 days, but it also connects to the day at number 44. The home run king, Hank Aaron, died after having taken the SHOT 6 plus 6 plus 6 days earlier. And he died and took the shot in the 4th state. The home run king hints at King Apollyon, which is in the prophecy regarding the demonic possession of those who take the mark of the Antichrist. Number 44 died exactly 444 weeks after the mass shooting in the Batman movie massacre. And that was exactly and that was a Dark Knight Rises movie, the name of the movie. And that was exactly 42 months after the rise of the Dark Knight, with his inauguration, the 44th president. Okay. Well, anyway, the Kobe Bryant's game, 9 times 9 points, pairs with this 44 weeks exactly to the date officially that Omicron was named. As I said earlier, Bokanon does in fact hint at Omicron. Now, this game is also 420.00% of a year, which connects to the predicted peak of the stock market and then crash on February 6th. This is also 219 weeks. And 219 is the ninth super semi-prime number, which pairs with the 44 weeks. Anyway, Kurt Vonnegut was 4,044 weeks and 4 days old when he died on the date 411, which since at 4 times 11 equals 44. It was also 1,013 months exactly, which hints at G131. God uses combinations of 2 1s and a 3 to hint at G131 in the Greek concordance, which is the word that means blood disease, as in Ice 9. Kurt Vonnegut. Okay, just giving you all kinds of more second witness confirmations here, essentially. Bokanon hints at Barack Obama. Bokanonism is somewhat of a hive mind religion. We Bolkanists, quote, we Bolkanists believe that humanity is organized into teams that do God's will without ever discovering what they are doing, such as a team is called a Karas by Bokanon. Such a team is called a Karas by Bokanon. Cat's Cradle, CC, 333. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Okay, in Kobe's 81 points game, which ends at 911, because in Revelation 9:11, because 9 divided by 11 is 0.818181. The final shots were made with 42 seconds left, and he played 42 minutes in the game, which is another second witness confirmation to the 42 seconds, which again confirms the date, and like I said, hinting at 1260. And this was again 60 plus 60 plus 60 months, which is also Antichrist, as is 1260, before the biggest COVID shot prophetic sign when Hank Aaron died. Because, of course, the home run king, number 44, hints at the Antichrist king, the 44th president, who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist. And again, he died 6 plus 6 days after he took the SHOT in the fourth state. And that day that 44 died was 44 weeks before Omicron exactly. I keep forgetting that. That's an amazing thing to know. Because again, number 44 died exactly 444 weeks after the Dark Knight Rises movie that identified the Dark Knight, the 44th president. But also, number 44 died 44 weeks exactly before Omicron. Yeah, wow. And by the way, the Italian movie Omicron, which is what this hints at, is about an alien that demonically possesses the dead man. And the Italian Pope will be resurrected as a dead man from the dead and become the Antichrist, Pope Francis. The Kobe book series titled The Wizard series was authored by Wesley King, as in King Apollyon, Revelation 9:11. A blend of, quote, basketball and fantasy, unquote, conceived by Kobe and claimed to be rooted in his Mamba mentality, which hints at Obama, the basketball president. The Wizard series, and by the way, Obama and Pope Francis will be wizards. They will have these supernatural powers. The Wizard series, Training Camp, was published on March 19th, 2019, exactly 2520 days, which is this number of time in the Bible prophecy symbolizing the period of the end times and the Antichrist, before February 10th, 2026. Anyway, March 19th, 2019, Wizard is 313 days after, or before, I should say, Kobe Bryant crashed. Pope Francis is the wizard in God's signs. God is communicating that he's a wizard or a warlock. And he was elected on the date 313 in the year 13, and Rome converted to Catholicism in the year 313. On 313 and 13, Pope Francis, the wizard, 313 weeks exactly and 6 days, which is also 6 months and 6 days, to Kobe Bryant's Wizard series, okay, which is also 314 weeks exactly, and Isaiah 31:4 describes the Antichrist. And this is in turn 313 days. So in other words, you have the 313 weeks connection and the 313 days connection to Kobe Bryant's crash. And by the way, it was a helicopter that crashed. And in God's science, helicopters are symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist because of the X rotor blades. And X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist in the book of Ezekiel would have been a Tav mark. The Tav is the last and 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, and it's 22 months to Omicron. Kobe Bryant died exactly 22 months before Omicron. Yeah, and that in turn, Omicron is exactly 41 months before Pope Francis died. And again, 41 in the numeric is the numeric equivalent of the word key in simple English gematria. Key is a symbol for the Vatican. Pope Francis is buried at the Vatican, and he's predicted to be raised from the dead. But he was entombed. His funeral was exactly 41 months after Omicron. And Omicron, the movie, is an Italian movie about alien possessing a dead man, an alien, which is what's coming. The demons will demonically possess people, and they'll pretend to be aliens from outer space. And Pope Francis will be raised from the dead as a dead man, and he will become the Antichrist through demonic power. Anyway, the day of his funeral is 4 years exactly, and the word door, which is what's opened with the key, is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And that gets us to April 26, 2029, the predicted date of the resurrection of Pope Francis. It's either this date or May 2nd. If it's this date, then May 2nd is another day. Maybe that's the day that Pope Leo steps down or something. I don't know. God is pointing to both dates. Well, okay, and Pope Francis is a wizard. And this all connects back again to or through the Wizard series here. And it all leads back originally in this series of connections, as you can see, from the date Pope Francis was elected. Kobe Bryant scored 81 points on the 33rd anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Earlier that same season, on December 20th, Kobe scored 62 points against the Dallas Mavericks in only 3 quarters. At the end of the third quarter, the Mavericks' entire team had only scored 61 points. Kobe was benched in the third quarter and for the entire fourth quarter because they were so far ahead going into the fourth quarter. Okay? So, okay. Now, what's interesting here is that Kobe's big game was on the date 122, right? But prior to that was the date 12/2 or 12/20, which also hints at 122. And he scored 62 points. Anyway, it was a 33-day difference between the two games. And when he scored 81 points, it was the 33rd anniversary of Roe v. Wade. So there you go. The Dallas, because of the evangelical church, that's the Church of Laodicea, that is not protesting enough Roe v. Wade. Now, 12/20 hints at 122, like I said, as does the other big game, the date January 22nd. And again, it was 60 plus 60 plus 60 months before Hank Aaron died, which was also the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And you know what? That anniversary was exactly 24 plus 24 years. Wow. So 24 plus 24 years hints at G2424, which is the word in the Greek concordance that means Jesus. Interesting. Okay, so anyway, Hank Aaron was number 44. And by the way, the year after that was the beginning of the protest of the truckers of the SHOT. And they paralleled the 49th parallel, and that was the 49th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. The 49th parallel is a border wall of security. It's all symbolism for Joshua and all that. They were blowing their horns, which is symbolic of blowing their trumpets, the truckers, and the Israelites blowing the trumpets before the walls of security collapsed on Jericho. The clogging of the streets in Ottawa was symbolic of the clogged arteries that the shots do, and the truckers closed down the bridges, the border wall of security to the U.S. and all that. And that was the clogging of the trade arteries, symbolic of the clogging of arteries that people get from taking the SHOT. All right, now, so what I was saying is that this game, again, is 60 plus 60 plus 60 months before Hank Aaron took the shot and died after 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the shot. And Kobe Bryant's 81 points are shots on the net. There you go. Now, the date again of his game hints at 12:60, and he played for 42 minutes, and his final shots were with 42 seconds in the game, which is all Antichrist because the period of the Antichrist is 42 months or 1260 days. And again, it's 60 plus 60 plus 60 months exactly to Hank Aaron dying, number 44, who died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the shot in the fourth state. And that day is exactly 44 weeks before Omicron, Bokanon, Ice 9 ice shots. Okay. Kobe played 42 minutes in the game on the date, and his final shots were made with 42 seconds remaining in the game. He had 3 turnovers and 3 steals in the game. This was on the 33rd anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and it was 33 days after he was pulled from the game in the third quarter in the Dallas Nicolaitan game. His 3 turnovers and 3 steals on this date is also 8,400 days inclusive to the date that the Obamas are predicted to return to the White House, and the name Obama is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, and Obama was born on the date 8/4, and he will serve a 3rd term. Hence the 3 turnovers and 3 steals connecting with 8,400 days. The connection between this S&P low, the tick low of 6666 on the date 36 in 2009, is 203 months exactly to the date of the predicted peak of the stock market and subsequent crash. 203 hits at 23, and 203 is also the 23rd super semi-prime number, and 23 is the 9th prime number. Let's see. Okay, so we established all that already. That's why I'm hesitant to read it again. But what I didn't mention earlier is that this 203 months is also the equivalent of 16 years and 11 months. And this hints at the King James Bible, which was published in 1611. And this isn't the only instance of God using this, but this also hints at the king, as in King Apollyon in Revelation chapter 9. And this connection involving the 9th prime number, 23, hints at Revelation chapter 9. Yeah. But again, also this stock market low, which connects with this 23 number to the predicted stock market peak, was also the 9th triangular number of days after the inauguration of the 44th president, a pairing of 9 and 44. Okay, so that's the 9th triangular number, and then connecting with the 203 months, or the 23rd super semi-prime number of months, is a pairing of 9 and 23 also. But anyway, the point is that this also is 16 years and 11 months, which gives us the King James Bible, which hints at King Apollyon in Revelation chapter 9. Now, Michael Jordan was born 314 months after Pope Francis. Amazing. Which gives us Isaiah 31:4. Jordan played for the Wizards. Pope Francis is a warlock, a wizard. Isaiah 31:4 describes the Antichrist, Pope Francis. The Omicron movie plot. The dead man who gets possessed by an alien died in a pipe in a construction site. The pipe is hinting at a portal, or the bottomless pit and a portal for demons pretending to be aliens that will possess people who take the mark of the Antichrist because of a virus. Omicron. That's amazing, okay? That's the plot of the movie. But what's interesting is that the dead man gets possessed by the alien after he dies in a pipe, which is symbolic of a portal to the demonic realm, the bottomless pit. Kobe's final game was against the Utah Jazz on April 13th, 2016, and he scored 60 points. He was taken out of the game for the final time in his career with 4.1 seconds remaining in the game, receiving a standing ovation. It was 37 months exactly after the election of the Antichrist. And it was 217 days before the Legends of Chamberlain Heights episode End of Days premiered on November 16th, 2016. That's a cartoon in which it depicted Kobe Bryant dying in a helicopter crash. And this episode aired 4 years before Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. Jordan's last game as a Bull was against the Utah Jazz from the 45th state. Okay, the Jazz is played with trumpets, and Trump is the 45th president. The game was on June 14th, 1998, on the 42nd birthday of the 45th president. I didn't know that, or I forgot. I forgot again. Wow. Yeah. Jordan is associated with Nike. The goddess Nike is slayed by a bull. In the 81 points game, which hints at 9 divided by 11 equals 0.8181, which is Revelation 9:11, Pope Francis, Kobe, as in COVID, scored 7 3-pointers. In his final game on April 13, 2016, as a Los Angeles Laker, as in Fallen Angels and Lake of Fire, he was taken out of the game with 4.1 seconds remaining. 41 is the number for key, which hints at Vatican, the symbol for the Vatican, and Pope Francis, and which was 37 months after the election of Pope Francis. When that's all hinted at with the 7 3-pointers, okay? You get it? Now, the 81 points game, 9 divided by 11 equals 0.8181, Revelation 9:11, okay. And Pope Francis will be resurrected from the dead by demons, and King Apollyon after the bottomless pit opened with the key, Revelation 9:11, as in 81 points game. Okay. Jordan's 63rd birthday, this February 17th, will be 45 days after Maduro, who wore Nike, was captured on January 3rd, and Jordan wore number 45. Maduro hints at madman, and okay. Anyway, this prediction for February 6th is 2 times 17 days after Maduro wore Nike. Okay, so Jordan's 63rd birthday, and this date here, which again is 23,000 days after Jordan's birthday. Okay, these two dates connect back to Maduro. One with 2 times 17 days, and the other date is 217, which connects with 45 days to Maduro, and Jordan wore number 45. And again, he scored 45 points in his last game, and on and on. Jordan is born 12 weeks and 2 days after Maduro, but it's also Nicolas Maduro, as in Nike Maduro, who wore Nike in the photos. And Jordan is, of course, associated with the Nike. And he was Air Jordan, and Maduro was air transported back to the U.S. while wearing Nike. Air Jordan. Okay, now Jordan, Bulls, Beast, Prince of Power of the Air, Michael Jordan, the name for the Satan in the Bible. On the 63rd birthday, on February 17th, is 45 days after Nick Maduro wore Nike in New York City, home of the 45th president. And on January 3rd, Revelation chapter 13, Beast, as in Bull, Jordan wore number 45. And 2-6 is 2000. Okay, we get the idea here. Okay. February 6th will be 36 days after Mamdani, as in Madman Maduro, New York City, was sworn in the pit underneath City Hall in New York City, where 9/11 took place, which was perpetrated by Muslims, and Mamdani is the first Muslim mayor, if you can believe it. After 9/11, we do have now a Muslim mayor. Can you believe it? I'll just say it again. But anyway, he was sworn in the pit. He was sworn in the subway station underneath City Hall, if you can believe that, because it's symbolic of the pit, the bottomless pit. Mamdani hints at madman, as in the demonic possession of people who have taken the mark of the Antichrist by demons coming from the bottomless pit. Now, the word beast is a metaphor in the Bible for the Antichrist, and its numeric equivalent is 47 in Simple English Gematria. And this date, this February 17th date, is 42 days after Mamdani, was sworn in the pit underneath City Hall where 9/11 took place. Okay. We're almost at the end here. Okay. So Jordan, the Prince of Power of the Air equals Air Jordan Nike. Jordan, Prince of the Power, Air Jordan Nike. Nick Maduro, who are Nike, emptied prisons, as in the bottomless pit. And Trump has been trumpeting how Maduro emptied his prisons into the U.S., which is symbolic of the invasion of the illegal aliens into the U.S., which is symbolic of the demons pretending to be aliens after the wall of security between the demonic realm and the earthly realm collapses, just like the American border collapsed. But that's the symbolism in Maduro, madman, emptying his prisons. Because the bottomless pit is the prison for the demons that will be opened, just like Maduro opened his prisons to invade the U.S., God's Gentile nation. Jordan was born 12 weeks, 2 days after Nick Maduro, who wore Nike, and 122 is the 41st semi-prime number, which is hinting at the key to the bottomless pit. Trump trumpeted Nike Maduro's emptying of prisons. Trump has been trying to remove Maduro since the 45th presidency. Jordan's 63rd birthday, as in 666, will be 45 days after Nick Maduro wore Nike in New York City, where Trump is from, after Madani was inaugurated in the pit in New York City, where the 45th president is from. Jordan wore number 45 and scored 45 points in his last game as a bull against the team from the 45th state. A bull is a beast. Nick Nike Maduro was captured on the date 1-3. The beast is Pope Francis in Revelation chapter 13, which 1-3 hints at. The beast is Revelation chapter 13 is Pope Francis. Pope Francis equals 122 in simple English gematria. Jordan, Prince of the Power of the Air, Michael Jordan, was born 12 weeks and 2 days after Nick Nike Maduro. Kobe Bryant is equal to 113 in simple English gematria, as is Michael Jordan, as is Apocalypse, as is Trumpet. 113 hints at G131, which is COVID, which is blood disease, which hints at COVID and Kobe. G113 is lawless, which is unprincipled men. Perhaps the two basketball players, number 8 and 23, hints at the two antichrists. Of course it does. And the date of Kobe Bryant's game was against the Raptors, the Rapture, and the game was 1,300 weeks and 4 days before the upcoming predicted asteroid that will hit Earth, and so 1,300 weeks and 4 days since that 3:14 and Isaiah chapter 31:4 and the description of the Antichrist and on and on. And so either the first or second rapture. Okay, so there might be two raptures. This might be the second one of the two, and but it's also the day of the asteroid. And last but not least, Kobe Bryant scored 81 points against the Raptors. Rapture, 14 years and 4 days, which hints at the rapture before his crash, which is exactly 131 months before this predicted asteroid date and crash of the asteroid on Earth. And that's relevant because this 131 number hints at the mark of the Antichrist, which gives blood disease, and it goes into people's blood. And you can imagine what will happen after this date, the rationing of food, which will be used to enforce the mark of the Antichrist for only the good citizens who take the mark of the Antichrist. The others will not be able to buy the rationed food, and this will be enforced through digital programmable currency. Okay, that's it for this video. God bless. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Do not listen to or follow the example of most quote-unquote Christians. Instead, follow the teachings of Jesus, which most quote-unquote Christians ignore. Like Jesus, you must surrender your life. Put nothing ahead of Jesus, your Lord. Like Jesus, you must lay down your life so that you may live. As Jesus said, one must die first, like a kernel of wheat going into the ground, in order to then grow and produce fruit. And like Jesus said, one must produce fruit, or else like a branch or a tree not producing fruit, they will be thrown into the fire. Jesus was speaking to quote-unquote Christians when he said this. One must die the self in order to be born again. And like Jesus said, one must be born again to enter the kingdom. Like Jesus, you must sacrifice your life for the sake of the coming kingdom. It means to do work that involves some form of sacrifice and risk. To have faith does not mean to intellectually agree. You need to demonstrate your faith through taking action. To have faith means to trust in God's promises. Taking action demonstrates trust and fear of the Lord. The primary reason that the wrath of God is coming upon America is quote-unquote Christians that do not get what I have just explained. The only reason a Christian is alive is in order to help other people become Christians and make it to the kingdom. Do not be deceived by those on the political left claiming to be quote-unquote Christians. There is no such thing as a Christian on today's political progressive left. Jesus said, "Do not think I have come to abolish or change any bit of the law or the prophets of the Old Testament Bible." In other words, the God of the Old Testament Bible is the exact same God of the New Testament Bible. It is essential that you learn about the God of the Bible and his ways. The God of the Old Testament Bible is looking to see who will fear him, and to fear God is not the same thing as quote-unquote revering or honoring God. Through Christ's ransom payment, a Christian is someone who has been redeemed and freed from slavery to sin and Satan. In response, a true Christian recognizes that their life in this world does not belong to them, and they become a willing slave to Jesus for the sake of the kingdom. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. And don't only put the link to this video or another video on this channel in comments sections of places you typically visit, but importantly, put the link to the video in places you never visit, where people who don't think like you visit. If you are a quote-unquote Christian, Nothing in terms of an evangelism tool compares to this video with its prediction. It is a massive bag of gold. Beware of Jesus' warning through the quote-unquote Christian that did nothing with his bag of gold and was banished to hell. Also, read Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33 for this same warning. If you think you might be spending too much time watching videos instead of working and sacrificing for the kingdom through handing out flyers and potentially helping hundreds of people in the same length of time as a video, my flyer is filled with amazing information that people need to know right now, and it points people to the video channel. Now is not the time to be handing out typical evangelical tracts that are largely based in error anyway, such as, quote, Jesus loves you, unquote, for example. You can hand out the flyer on busy street corners, put them on car windshields in busy parking lots, and put them in mailboxes. Just send the file to your local print shop. You can download the file from the website. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, asteroidprediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.